So let's get started. So my name is Paul Wolf. I serve as president of the New York Coalition for Open Government. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that is dedicated to addressing transparency in government issues. And we released reports a couple times a year. So the most recent report that we've completed, we're releasing today, and that is regarding village governments. And we've titled that report that village governments across New York State provide limited information to the public. And what we did was, what we typically do is we take a look at 20 areas across the state. So we've done, cities, counties, authorities. So for this report, we focused on village governments. We do it all across the state. There's 9 regions in New York State. So 10 if you count New York City, but New York City doesn't have any villages. So we try to make sure that we do at least 2 from each region of the state so that we're getting a broad spectrum across the state. And we took a look at 4 items for this report. First, our villages, did they post their meeting minutes, all of their meeting minutes for 2020? We did this, we took a look in February. So certainly by February, all minutes should have been posted. We also took a look at, are they posting meeting agendas online? The public should be able to know what are the topics being discussed at a meeting. Thirdly, are they posting meeting documents with the agenda? It's one thing to see, what topics are being discussed, but the public should be able to see all of the meeting documents that government officials are discussing and voting on. In fact, the Open Meetings Law states that if you have a regularly updated website, you should post meeting documents online before your meeting. And the last thing we took a look at is, are public comments allowed during the meeting? It's shocking to a lot of people that New York State Open Meetings Law does not mandate that the public has to be heard at a meeting. Most places do it, but not all. So those are the 4 items that we took a look at. And we weighted them differently because meeting agendas and agenda documents are required by law. Again, if you have a regularly updated website, we gave that greater weight than the other 2 items, posting meeting minutes and public comments. So using that grading criteria, our volunteers, we're an all volunteer organization. We don't have any paid staff. So just average folks looking at the website. Can we find your meeting minutes? Can we see for February, is the meeting agenda, meeting documents posted? Is there some indication on your meeting agenda or minutes that public comments are allowed? So we took a look at those 4 items, and what we came up with, 2 villages did great and got an A grade. And that was Johnson City and New Paltz. And the next, we got 3 villages that got a B grade, and that would be Brockport, Fredonia, and Port Chester. And then we had 5 that got a D grade. And these 5 got a D grade because they did not post meeting documents. And that was the village of Colony, Garden City, Horseheads, Lindenhurst, and Scotia. Truthfully, I think getting a D grade when you don't comply with the Open Meetings Law is probably being generous. But even worse than the D grades were the F grades, and 10 out of 20 got an F. And most of those were because they did not only not even post the meeting agenda, but didn't post meeting documents, and in a lot of cases, meeting minutes. Some, got 50 points, 30 points, 15 points. One municipality got 0 points. Not a great performance by village governments from our view. 75% are violating the open meetings law, in our opinion, by not posting meeting documents online. 35% did not post all of their meeting minutes. Now, again, the law does not require you to post them, but most places do, and it's a basic task that should be done. It's just, people should be able to find out what happened at a meeting, and minutes should be posted. 35% didn't post meeting agenda at all. I mean, how do you hold a meeting without publicizing what's on the agenda or what's being discussed? But 35% of the time, that's what occurred. We do make some recommendations in our report. We think the open meetings law needs to be strengthened and improved. And legislator Amy Paulin in the New York State Assembly and Senator Anna Kaplan have sponsored legislation which would mandate meeting minutes must be posted online within 2 weeks of a meeting. Right now, the law says they have to just be made available within 2 weeks. So that this would change the law to require them to be posted. Right now, the law says, as far as posting meeting documents, as best as practicable, a municipality with a regularly updated website should post meeting documents. I don't see any practicable reason why you can't scan and post the meeting documents online. It's not a hard thing to do. But the legislation that's being sponsored would mandate that you have to post meeting documents. Get rid of that as best as practicable language, that you have to post meeting documents within 24 hours of a meeting. I would have liked more time than 24 hours, but right now it's not even specified, a time period. So the other issue is there's no entity in New York State that reviews compliance with the open meetings law. There's no enforcement power. The New York State Committee on Open Government can only issue advisory opinions. The New York State Attorney General doesn't seem to address these issues, whereas in other states, we mentioned in our report, Massachusetts, the Attorney General can investigate a citizen's complaint and they can fine local government officials for violating the law. We don't have that in New York. Your only recourse is reports like these, which will hopefully embarrass elected officials to make some changes through media reports, or to file a lawsuit. And for a citizen to go hire an attorney and spend thousands of dollars to file a lawsuit is just a difficult task. It shouldn't be how it works, but that's what we're stuck with in New York. So that is our report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if someone just wants to unmute themselves or raise their hand if you have a question. We don't have that many shy people, I don't think. Going once.
I will ask a question.
Sure.
Can you hear me? This is Susan Weber in Colony, and not the town. I live in the town, not the village.
Okay.
And I'm a part of a group called Save Colony, a partnership for planning. And we're we've been around for about 4.5 years, and we are discovering all the things that the town is failing to do that go right along with what you are you're discussing with the villages. And I'm wondering if there is a plan for your totally all volunteer organization like we are to investigate these same issues for towns.
Well, we will, probably this year, our focus on towns is going to be on planning boards. So our next report, we're going to take a look at planning boards and are they posting meeting minutes, meeting agendas. So perhaps the town of Colony can be part of that.
That's great. And I would be delighted to help because we've been watching them as well.
Great.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Paul.
Yes.
Sonia. Since this has come out, this report, have you had any feedback by any of the officials?
Well, we're just releasing it to the media today. The next step is I will be emailing a copy of the report to every village that we studied. We always, after we release these reports, send them to the officials. And my hope is that they will take a look at it and change some of their practices. But we got to send it out after this.
I see.
I have a question that someone just emailed to me in the chat box, so let me just address that. The question is, what do you view as some of the ramification consequences of villages not adhering to the requirements of the state's open meetings law? I mean, the real problem here is, as we mentioned in the report, is the lack of information being provided to the public. So if you're not posting meeting minutes, I, as a concerned citizen, if I miss the meeting, I don't know what happened. If you're not posting your meeting agenda, and I'm a concerned citizen, I don't even know what you're talking about. Maybe there's something I'm interested in, but how do I know? If you post your meeting agenda, but not your documents, it's kind of hard to follow along in a meeting when people are discussing and voting on things, and you can't see the contract that they're discussing or the resolution that they're discussing. And it's really keeping the public in the dark in a lot of ways. And this is basic stuff. I mean, block clubs have meeting minutes and meeting agendas. So certainly government officials should be able to accomplish the same. Next question is, what separates an A grade from a B grade? So we, again, in our weighting system, an A grade was 100 points, a B grade was 85 points. So there was different ways you could have gotten the grade you got. At one point we thought about, well, there's 4 items, do we weight them equally? So if you got 4 out of 4, it's an A 3 out of 4, a B, a 2 out of 4, a C. But if we were to do that, if you didn't post your meeting documents, you could get a B, but you're violating the law. So I didn't really think that was an appropriate grading scale to use. Again, I think we're being generous that if you fail to post your meeting documents, you're still getting a D. Quite honestly, that's probably, you should get an F. You're violating the law. But so in our report, we explain how we weighted the different items and the possible scores people could get. Any other questions?
Paul, I wanted to concur with, I think it was Susan Weber about the planning. I know in Amherst, when they post the agenda, they also have the documents that the planning board, zoning board are looking at. Is that necessary? It seems to me it would be, but in my community in North Tonawanda, they do not present or have a overhead where a person, even if they didn't go to City Hall to read those documents, they are presenting them under that overhead projector, and they have information and seeing. Is that a requirement that the people also have that when they learn of the meeting?
Well, planning boards are a public body, and they too are required, if they have a regularly updated website, which most local governments do with their planning boards, they're also required to post their meeting documents. So we're going to take a look at that in our next report.
Another thing is when they do post the minutes in last year, one meeting I was interested in seeing the minutes. I believe it was in March. It wasn't until July that they posted those minutes.
Yeah, that's a problem. A lot of local governments are weeks and months behind in posting them. Right now, the law doesn't even mandate they have to post them, and we're hoping to change that with this legislation that's now been introduced. And I should mention, Coming up is Sunshine Week. So the week of March 15th is Sunshine Week across the country, where we celebrate free press and open government. And we're going to be doing a press conference on March 15th, which will be sending out a advisory with legislator Paulin and her discussing the bills that she has introduced. So look forward to that. We'll videotape that as well. And this report just only confirms the need as to why the law needs to be changed.
Paul, another thing with the planning or zoning board is when they do their minutes, when I've attended, when I've heard other people, they do not print what the person said. I don't mean word for word, but what the content was. They write something totally different. Even
well, that's
opposite,
a whole,
not on
other
point.
issue, but any other questions regarding this village reports?
Paul?
Yes.
Hi, this is Denise Civiletti at Riverhead Local out on the east end of Long Island. I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing. I would like to know, how does one, my first question is, how does one volunteer to help your organization? Because this has been for over 20 years, a kind of a ongoing issue for anybody that's a reporter, really. You're trying to report on local government. It's amazing what you're confronted with, and it's only gotten worse during COVID. So I'd like to know what I can do to be a volunteer with your coalition.
Thank you for that. We have a website, which is NYOpenGov, so NYOpenGov.org, NewYorkOpenGov.org. We have a Facebook page that people can also follow. We ask people to pay a membership due of $20 a year to be a paid member. We have regular monthly meetings by Zoom these days, the second Thursday of the month at 6:30 p.m. We have one coming up next Thursday. And people can certainly, on our website is my email address, so you can contact me by email. And we're open to reporters, journalists, citizens. We're also available to help folks in the news media. I frequently get calls or emails saying, hey, is this correct, or is this proper what they're doing or telling me? Kind of like the New York State Committee on Open Government, we are a resource where we can help citizens that are having issues with FOIL requests or open meetings law, and news reporters as well. And
Excellent.
we can certainly use more volunteers.
I'm sure. I also want to mention something. One of our assembly members on the East End out here, a guy by the name of Fred Thiel, he's introduced legislation that would add civil penalties, and in some cases criminal penalty for violations of the FOIL and the open meetings law. I don't have the bill number right here. He didn't put it in his press release, so I have to look for that, but I can send that on to you. I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't provide for any sort of enforcement arm in state government. The citizen still needs to,
Sure.
bring it. But, I thought that was a sign of hope.
Yeah, I mean, I would support all of those things. There are states, I know in the state of Florida, government officials have been criminally charged for knowingly and willfully violating the Freedom of Information law. And, in Massachusetts and other states, you can be fined for violating the open meetings law. I think there has to be more teeth put into the law. Government officials, know, I think a lot of it is bad habits. I think people want to do the right thing, but, this is the way it's always been done, and they just kind of get sucked up into that. So part of our reports are to educate people as well. But I think there needs to be there are some clear instances where people are knowingly violating the law, and you should have some penalties for that.
Here.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I will wrap it up. And if you're interested in a copy of this video, send me an email to Paul Wolf, WOLF2@gmail.com. We'll be doing another one of these in May, probably regarding our report regarding planning boards. And thanks for joining us and participating.